All right, you guys, so this is the year of yes for me. That's kind of like my whole slogan for this year. I started out by making this kind of map of what I wanted for this year to be, and it's just really starting to happen. So this is the vision board that I made. It's actually in my planner, and I just put it at the back of my planner. And it just goes through everything that I'm gonna try and do this year. And so this whole story, the reason why I haven't been uploading on YouTube for the past couple of weeks is because I've been traveling, and it all starts out like this. So I was on my way back from home. So I live, or my permanent residence is in Ontario, and Aspen's there. And so I went for Christmas. Came back to school. On my way back, I was in the Calgary airport and I got this email in my inbox. And it was this strange email from the University of Alaska. And it basically said, we have funding for a conference in Oulu. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like, this must be in Alaska. It must be some really interesting place in Alaska. I've never been to Alaska before. Let me look and see when it is. And it was February. So it was less than a month away, and the deadline was 4 days. And so I thought, okay, let me look up where this place actually is. And I looked it up online, and it was Finland. And I literally let out the highest pitch shriek in the middle of the airport where everyone turned around and looked at me, but I was so excited. And right then and there on my flight back to the town that I live in, I wrote my application and I sent it in. And lo and behold, the next day I got funding to go to Finland. So this is the whole story about how that entire trip went, because I was there last week. So here we go. All right, you guys, I'm off to the airport. I'm off to France. I'm off to a conference in Finland. I'm really excited. It's 4:30 in the morning, and let's just go. My cab's waiting. Ah! Okay, so I've got my food. Johnny English. So on my way to Finland, I was actually able to book my own flights, and I purposely booked a layover in Paris as well as in Amsterdam. So on my way to Finland, I had a layover in Paris. I had 11 hours, and I was gonna make those 11 hours count. Of course, I've never been to Paris before, and so I had a multitude of different sites that I really wanted to go and see, and I hit every single one of them in 11 hours with 30 minutes of sleep on the flight there. So here's a few clips of Notre Dame, which was my first stop. All right, so 12-hour layover. Here I am. Notre Dame. So cool. I loved it. It was gorgeous. The figures and the carvings were beautiful, and I would most definitely recommend, if you're ever in Paris, going inside of Notre Dame, because the inside was just as amazing as the outside. So since I was close to Notre Dame, there's another cathedral called the Sainte-Chapelle, or it's a chapel. It theoretically was built to house the religious relics of France, I think, and it theoretically had the crown of thorns, you know. So I went over there, and it has some of the most amazing glass windows, stained glass windows in the entire world. So I was absolutely shocked and in awe with these windows. It was amazing. I sat down and just stared for probably a good 15 minutes.
It's gonna be, it's beautiful.
Put it on the
You wanna
floor?
see the one I took?
Yeah, yeah.
So after all of that, I had planned to go to the Palace of Versailles, but there's a whole bunch of protests going on in Paris right now, and I was told by email that the protesters were going to be at Versailles on the exact same day that I had come, of course, after I had already purchased my ticket. And so the entire day I was kind of like contemplating, should I go, should I not? And I decided, whatever, I'm just gonna go. Thankfully, there were no protesters, so it was completely empty, and I made it to Versailles, and it was insane. Insane. If you ever go to Paris, I would highly recommend it. It's probably one of my favorite things that I saw in those 11 hours. The rooms are crazy. Crazy. I mean, the amount of money that was spent by the royals that lived there during the time is just ludicrous. And so it took my breath away. The Hall of Mirrors was beautiful. It was packed with people, of course, people that had their cell phones out, taking pictures and all of that. But I have wanted to go to Versailles ever since I was probably in high school, learning about Marie Antoinette and all of that. And so to be able to walk the halls that these people did back then, it was so cool. It was such a cool experience. This is the next stop, Versailles. I'm officially in Versailles. I'm so excited. So I'm in the Hall of Mirrors. And then the gardens were beautiful. I mean, this was winter, so it's not going to be as beautiful as it probably is in the summer. But then again, the crowds were a lot lower than in the summer, so it's kind of like a trade-off. But it was gorgeous. I truthfully did not get to see as much of the grounds as I would have liked to have seen. Because I was running. I was worried. I had 11 hours. I had to be at the airport at least 3 hours in advance because I had an international flight. But it was breathtaking from what I saw, and I would love to go back and actually spend a day looking at the grounds. Spending half a day at Versailles, you're not going to see everything, but it was the trade-off that I had to be able to see it while, like, during the time of my layover. So then I ran back to the train and got on the train and did a quick stop at the Eiffel Tower and then made my way to the airport. So by the time I made it to the airport, I was exhausted. I had 30 minutes of sleep on the flight and I was literally bobbing in my seat waiting for my flight to Finland, but I made it to Helsinki and got into my hotel and I fell on my bed and just crashed. I was so tired. All right, everyone, so I made it to Finland, to Helsinki. Here's my hotel. Oh my gosh. I probably look so bad. I am so tired. I flew 8 hours to Paris, and on that flight I got maybe 30 minutes of sleep, and then I had 12 hours in Paris and I ran like crazy. And I saw so much, and I'm sure that you guys have seen that so far, but it was a lot for me to do on 30 minutes of sleep. So I'm running on very little sleep, and I need to rest my brain. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm in Helsinki right now. Actually, Vantaa, I think that's how you call it. Just waiting for my next flight, which is this evening. So I'm gonna go and get something to eat now. It's beautiful here. It reminds me of Canada so much, but I love it. All right, so the next day I was in Helsinki. Actually, I think it's called Vantaa. It's the town that's really close to the Helsinki airport. And I had thought about going into downtown Helsinki on that day, but I was just so exhausted that I just hung around that place until my flight in the evening. And then I went to a place called Sooo, Finland. And it was pretty awesome. The amount of snow there was crazy. It was about -23, which actually was warmer than the place that I'm from. Sooo, Finland. I don't know what the sculptures are. This is a nice one too.
I know high-tech one.
So I was in Finland for a One Health conference. And if you're not familiar with the concept of One Health, it's basically a concept that ties together human health, animal health, and the environment, and how all three of those kind of form a triangle and work together. So it was a really cool conference, very informative. I got to present there very shortly, and I had a poster there as well on some of my work with the Arctic foxes in Nunavut. And then I was there for 2 days, and then it was time to leave. And I went to Amsterdam on my way there, but I had about a 8-hour layover in Helsinki. And so I thought, okay, gonna take the train from the Helsinki airport and go downtown. And it was actually really cool. I'm glad that I did that. It was rainy, so that kind of sucked, but it was a pretty cool experience. All right, so I'm going into downtown Helsinki today. Guess we'll see how it goes. I don't know where I am, but I'm gonna try and find something to do. It's cold, it's rainy. So here's the Central Square, I think. What building is this? Let me see here. Senate Square. Right there. So I got to Amsterdam, went to my hotel, and crashed. I was really tired. Clearly, this is a lot of travel. This all happens within 6 days, so you can imagine how my body was feeling. It was so confused about what time was nighttime versus what time was daytime. But then the following day after waking up in Amsterdam, I went to downtown just to check out everything. And actually, Amsterdam surprised me a lot. Like, I thought that it would be one of the least interesting places that I was going to. And I actually wound up liking it maybe even better than Paris. The architecture was really cool. I felt very safe in Amsterdam. The food was great. And the canals were just beautiful. People were very respectful. The train was very easy to navigate from the airport. And I just really enjoyed it. It reminded me so much of Harry Potter. You know, like the city that's built in Universal Studios. What's that called? Diagon Alley? Is that it? I don't know. It reminded me of that. So I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Made it to Amsterdam. 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 M So I got some French fries. And this is this kind of spicy sauce. Really good. Really, really, really good. This place is so cool. It reminds me of Hogwarts or Harry Potter. Then it was time to head to the airport because I had an overnight flight back to Minneapolis and then back to Canada. And so that entire trip it actually went really fast. I fell asleep on that flight for a good 5 hours. So I felt fairly well rested. I've been adjusting to the time now. This is actually the first day where I actually slept what would be considered normal here. So all in all, that week was absolutely amazing. I had so much fun, and that just goes to show you, if you say yes to opportunities, great things come about. They really do. I didn't know that that was going to happen at the beginning of this year, and already I've seen 3 countries that I was not expecting to see. So I hope that this just goes to show you that taking opportunities, even though they may seem a little daunting, if you don't have enough time or if you're pressured for time, but making time to make sure that you take advantage of them pays off in the end. So I'm gonna go. That's all I have for you guys for this week, but I am actually going to be going and visiting Aspen here in the next, I guess, 3 weeks or so. So stay tuned for that.